What do you have in mind? I want to cook for you, he declared, with a confidence that surprised even himself. Omalara's eyes widened in disbelief. You? Cook? Femi Adebayo was a typical Nigerian man, a successful civil engineer. He had been raised in a family where traditional gender roles were the norm. His father never cooked a meal in his life, and his brothers followed suit. But Femi had always been different, always curious, always willing to explore beyond the boundaries set by tradition. This curiosity led him to the most unlikely promise he ever made to his beloved wife, Omolara. Omolara was the heart and soul of the Adebayo's household. A brilliant lawyer, she balanced her demanding career with the responsibilities of running a home with grace. Femi adored her, admired her strength, and respected her intelligence. But there was one thing that Femi had never done for her in their 5 years of marriage. He had never cooked for her. It wasn't that he didn't want to, he just never found the time. And perhaps there was a small part of him that was a bit nervous about it. Omalara was an excellent cook, and her jollof rice was the stuff of legends among their friends. The thought of trying to measure up her cooking skills was daunting. One evening, as they sat in the living room after a particularly exhausting day at work, Femi noticed the weariness in Omolara's eyes. She had been juggling a difficult case in court, and the strain was beginning to show. It was in that moment, as he looked at her, that he had made a promise to himself. He would cook for her. Not just any meal, but one that would make her feel cherished and loved. Omolara, he said softly, taking her hand in his, you have been working so hard lately. Let me do something special for you this weekend. Omolara looked at him with a curious smile. What do you have in mind? I want to cook for you, he declared, with a confidence that surprised even himself. Omolara's eyes widened in disbelief. You? Cook? Femi chuckled, a bit nervous, now that the words had left his mouth. Yes, me. I want to make you a meal this Saturday. You just relax and let me take care of everything. She laughed. The sounds light and melodic, the kind of laugh that always made him fall in love with her all over again. This I have to see, she teased. All right, I'm looking forward to it. But remember, I have very high standards. Femi smiled, his resolve strengthening. You won't be disappointed, I promise. The week leading up to the Saturday was filled with anticipation and secretive planning on Femi's part. He was determined to make the best meal Omolara had ever tasted. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. Cooking wasn't exactly his forte, and his experience in the kitchen was limited to making simple breakfast items like toast and scrambled eggs. Determined not to let his wife down, Femi turned to the one person who could help him, his childhood friend Toby, who was a chef at a popular Lagos restaurant. Toby was thrilled when Femi called him with a plan. Femi, you cooking for Omolara? This is going to be legendary. Toby laughed heartily over the phone. I'm serious, Toby. I want to do this right. Can you help me? Of course. Of course. But you know, cooking isn't just about following a recipe. It's about putting your heart into it. But don't worry, we'll make sure Omolara loves it. They agreed to meet on Friday after work to go over the menu and practice the dishes. Femi was relieved to have Toby on board, but he also felt a growing sense of excitement. This was his chance to show Omolara just how much he appreciated her. Friday evening arrived, and Femi found himself in Toby's kitchen, surrounded by ingredients he barely recognized. They had decided on a menu that was ambitious but not impossible. Pepper soup for starters, a main course of pounded yam and egusi soup, and a dessert of puff-puff drizzled with chocolate sauce. Are you sure I can pull this off, Toby? Femi asked, eyeing the raw ingredients nervously. Trust me, Femi, you've got this. Just follow my lead and remember why you are doing this. The practice session was a mix of chaos and laughter. Femi discovered that cutting onions was more challenging than he had imagined. And at one point, he nearly set off the fire alarm with a pan of sizzling oil. But with Toby's guidance, he began to get the hang of it. By the end of the night, he had successfully prepared the entire meal with Toby's hand on help. Not bad for your first try, Toby said, clapping him on the back. You are ready for tomorrow. Femi wiped the sweat from his brows and smiled. Thanks, Toby. I couldn't have done this without you. Toby smiled. Just remember, Femi, it's not about perfection. It's about the effort and love you put into it. That's what Omolara will appreciate the most. Saturday morning arrived and Femi woke up, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Omolara had no idea what he had planned, and he wanted to keep it that way. He insisted that she spend the day pampering herself, going to the spa, getting her hair done, anything to keep her out of the house until evening. I've got everything under control, he reassured her as she hesitated at the door. Just go and relax. You deserve it. Omolara finally agreed, though not without a playful warning. You better not burn the house down, Femi. I won't, I promise, he said, giving her a kiss before she left. As soon as Omolara was out of the door, Femi sprang into action. He had a list of tasks to complete, from tidying up the house to creating the romantic dinner area. Next, he tackled the cooking. Everything he had practiced with Toby came flooding back to him as he prepared the pepper soup, carefully seasoning the broth and adding the fish at just the right moment. He moved on to the pounded yam, using all his strength to pound it to the perfect consistency. The egusi soup required his full attention, and he followed Toby's instruction to the letter, making sure the flavors were just right. By the time he had finished, the kitchen looked like a war zone. It was so messy. There were pots and pans everywhere, splatters of oil on the stove, and bits of yam stuck to the walls. But the food was ready, and that was all that mattered. He quickly cleaned up the kitchen, though he knew it wouldn't pass Omolara's usual standard of cleanliness. But he was too proud of his accomplishments to worry about that for now. Everything was set, and all he had to do was wait for Omolara to return. Omolara returned home just as the sun was setting. She was greeted by the soft glow of candlelight and the delicious aroma of freshly cooked food. Her eyes widened in surprise as she entered the dining room. "Femi, what is all this?" she asked, her smile spreading across her face. Femi beamed with pride as he guided her to the table. "Welcome home, my queen. Dinner is served." Omolara took her seat, still in disbelief. "You really did all this?" "Every bit of it, my love. Every bit of it," he said, pouring her a glass of wine. "I wanted to do something special for you, to show you how much I appreciated everything you do for us." Omolara's heart swelled with love as she looked at the effort he had put into the evening. "Femi, this is so sweet. Thank you." He smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him at her words. "I'm glad you like it. Now, let's eat before the food gets cold." They started with a pepper soup, and Femi watched nervously as Omolara took her first spoonful. He held his breath, waiting for her reaction. Her eyes lit up as she savored the flavors. "This is amazing. You really outdid yourself." Relief washed over him, and he grinned from ear to ear. The main course was next, and Omolara was equally impressed by the pounded yam and egusi soup. "This is so delicious. I can't believe you made this all by yourself." Femi chuckled, feeling more confident now. "I told you I could cook. I was just waiting for the best time to unleash my powers." They both laughed so hard. As they finished their meal, Omolara couldn't stop smiling. She was touched by the effort Femi had put in, and she knew this was a memory they would cherish forever. Finally, Femi brought out the dessert. Puff puff drizzled with chocolate sauce. Omolara took a bite and closed her eyes in delight. "This is the perfect ending to a perfect meal, my love." Femi felt a surge of happiness as he watched her enjoy the dessert. "I'm glad you think so," he said, taking a bite himself. The sweetness of the puff-puff, combined with the rich chocolate sauce, was a delightful finish to the evening. After the meal, they both sat back in their chairs, comfortably full and deeply content. Omolara reached across the table and took Femi's hand, her eyes shining with love and appreciation. "Babes, tonight had been incredible," she said softly. "I never imagined you would do something like this. It means more to me than I can say." Femi squeezed her hand, feeling a deep connection with her in that moment. "You deserve it, my love. I wanted to show you how much I appreciated everything you do. I know I don't say it often, but I see how hard you work, both at home and at the office. You are amazing, and I'm so lucky to have you as my wife." Omolara smiled, her heart full. I'm the lucky one, Femi. You have shown me tonight that love isn't just about grand gestures or big words. It's about the little things, the effort you put in, and the thoughtfulness behind it. You've made me feel so special, and I love you even more for it. They sat in silence for a few moments, just enjoying each other's company. Eventually, Femi stood up and offered his hands to Omolara. Shall we dance? Omolara raised her eyebrow, smiling softly. Dance? Here? Why not? Femi replied, a mischievous grin on his face. It's our night after all. He turned on some soft music and they danced slowly in the candlelit dining room. The world outside seemed to disappear as they held each other close, lost in the moment. The next morning, Femi woke up with a smile on his face. The events of the previous night played in his mind like a sweet melody. He looked over at Omolara, still asleep beside him, her face peaceful and content. He couldn't resist leaning over to kiss her forehead gently. Omolara stared and opened her eyes, smiling up at him. Good morning, my love. My personal chef, she teased. Femi chuckled, feeling a mix of pride and embarrassment. Good morning, my queen. Did you sleep well? Like a baby, she replied, sitting up and stretching. Last night was magical. Thank you. It was my pleasure, he said, taking her hand in his. But I've learned something important from all this. Oh, and what's that? I've realized that it's not just about doing something special once in a while. It's about making an effort every day in little ways, whether it's cooking, helping around the house, or just being there for each other. These small acts of love and kindness are what really matters. Omolara nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. You are right. It's easy to get caught in the business of life and forget to show appreciation for the ones we love. But last night reminded me of how important is it to nurture our relationship, to keep it strong and full of love. Femi smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. I'm glad we both learned something from this. And who knows, maybe I'll cook for you more often. Omolara laughed, her eyes twinkling. I'll hold you to that, Femi. But next time, I'll be your sous chef. Deal, Femi said, pulling her close for a hug.